Alors, bonsoir, bienvenue à la réunion du 24 novembre. Roll call, we have Councillor Lauren who has a motivated absence. And we'll move to territorial land acknowledgement.
Nous reconnaissons que nous sommes sur le territoire non cédé des Anishinaabe et les terres traditionnelles des peuples Haudenosaunee, Huron-Wendat et Kanyen-Kahaka. Nous reconnaissons notre obligation commune de respecter, d'honorer et de préserver ces terres et les ressources naturelles qu'ils contiennent.
Merci, conseiller. Whereas Canada is founded upon the principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law, let us take a moment of personal reflection.
Ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you. All right, additions, deletions, or amendments. I've got a few here. So 18A, I would like to add the CRRRC, so Capital Region Resource Recovery Center discussion. 18B, I would like to discuss UCPR growth-related funding discussion, to discuss that. 18C, I'd like to add Bill 68. Councillor Armstrong, 18D.
And 18D, the effective postal strikes on our utilities billing and other billing in the township.
Okay, so postal strike and billing. Thank you. Anything else, members of council? Seeing none. So I'd like a motion to approve the agenda as amended. This is moved by Councillor Armstrong, seconded by Councillor Lalonde. Call for the vote. All in favor? And passed. Moving to item 6, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Seeing none. Item 7, the adoption of minutes. Motion to approve the regular council minutes from our November 10th council meeting. This is moved by Councillor Deakin, seconded by Councillor Lalonde. Call for the vote. All in favor? And passed. Thank you, Council. Numéro 8, présentation, on n'en a pas. Numéro 9, délégation, on n'en a pas. Numéro 10, items de consentement. So, item A, we'll start with a proclamation of the and flag raising ceremony request for Terry Fox Week 2026. Whereas on April 12, 1980, Terry Fox undertook his marathon of hope. His determination, compassion, and drive in the fight against cancer continues to inspire people around the world, people worldwide. And whereas people worldwide are encouraged to join together and participate in the annual Terry Fox Run for its 46th year, whether by walking, running, or volunteering to honor the legacy of Terry Fox and contribute to the ongoing battle against cancer and to raise funds for cancer research, treatment, and support services that make meaningful differences in the lives of those affected by this disease. And whereas the annual Terry Fox Run has become a symbol of hope and show of power of community involvement in the township, in Russell Township, the Township of Russell encourages everyone to participate by honoring the legacy of Terry Fox and coming together to make meaningful difference in the lives of those affected by cancer. And whereas the Terry Fox Run will take place on Sunday, September 20th, 2026 in the village of Russell behind Mother Teresa School, on the recreational trail, and in the village of Embrun beside the train station, Embrun's Historical Museum now, on the recreation trail in the Township of Russell. And whereas this event gives the community an opportunity to get involved in the efforts to find a cure for cancer, while sharing in the spirit of unity, determination, and compassion exemplified by Terry Fox, as he continues to inspire individuals of all ages, encouraging them to make a difference in the fight against cancer. Therefore, be it resolved that Council approve the flag-raising ceremony request received from Ms. Donna LaFrance in recognition of Terry Fox Week, and that the Township of Russell proclaim the week of September 14th to September 18th, 2026 as Terry Fox Week, and that a flag-raising ceremony be held on the Town Hall on September 14th, 2026 at 10 a.m. Item B. I'm going to take a sip of water here. So item B, proclamation December 6th, Day of Nonviolence in Prescott-Russell. Whereas November is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and November 25th is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, and whereas violence is the greatest gender inequality issue facing women, girls, and gender diverse individuals, our community is committed to ending feminicide and all forms of gender-based violence. And whereas as of September 30th, 2025, femicide rates continue to rise in Ontario, with more than 35 femicides recorded since November 26, 2024. And whereas this month and throughout the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, we recognize our community's support for a White Ribbon campaign and its commitment to ending gender-based violence. And whereas there is an urgent need to invest more and take action to eliminate gender-based violence in our community and throughout Ontario at all levels of government, and be it resolved that the Township of Russell proclaim and declare December 6, 2025 as a day of nonviolence in Prescott-Russell, and that the Township of Russell invites all citizens to mark this day by participating in vigils organized by the Prescott-Russell Coalition to End Violence Against Women, to take concrete actions to support survivors, and to participate in Ontario-wide efforts to end gender-based violence. Item C, request for the community grants from the Parks and Recreation Department 2025 budget. Item D, minutes of the Accessibility Advisory Committee, September 3rd, 2025. And item E, Paylist, October 2025. So motion that all items listed under consent items be received as presented, and this will be moved by Councillor Deakin, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Call for the vote. All in favor, and passed. At this time, I would like us to take a picture maybe for the White Ribbon campaign. So if I can get all the male members that have the White Ribbon to come up here maybe for the picture. Is there a better place? I think it was, oh yeah, but yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. We'll go by the,
You can slide by here.
Merci à tous. Monsieur Godin, il va y avoir un communiqué de presse qui va sortir avec ça? Oui. OK. OK. Moving to item 11. Rapport des départements et des comités de conseil. Alors, 11A, règlement visant à exempter certains terrains de l'application du contrôle des lots PD 2025, voire numéro 16, règlement. Quelque chose à rajouter, M. Bourgon? Questions, commentaires, membres du conseil? Non? Alors, on continue. Item B, 2025 Financial Reports, Q3, January to September, Report CS ASFS 2025-2024. So the council received this report dated November 24th, 2025, the financial report up to the third quarter of 2025, covering a period of January to September 2025 for information purposes. Monsieur Godin, vous prenez le... Êtes-vous prêt? Là, on a bien des questions.
Je suis prêt. Merci,
OK. Moi, j'aurais, avant de passer les commentaires, j'aurais une question. J'ai vu que il y a quand même une anomalie sur les year-to-date revenues d'environ 20% de plus qu'on était à l'année passée à ce temps-ci. Alors, c'est des bonnes nouvelles. Je suis heureux de voir ça, mais est-ce qu'on a... are we ahead of the budget or expected budget?
Oui, merci, M. Maire. Bonsoir, cher membre du conseil. So you're referring to the last column where it's showing our revenues so
Year
far
to
this
date,
year to
yeah,
date
yeah.
versus last year at the
That's
same
correct,
period.
yeah.
We were expecting to have more revenues. It's too early to say if we're actually going to exceed the budgeted revenues. I know, and I saw Madame Guitar pull her microphone, we did get a lot more revenues on the daycare side because of a funding program, so that there's a significant impact there. And high level, just with the growth, we always exponentially have a bit more revenue every year, given that over and above the increase in taxation, there's the revenues coming from those new properties for user fees and whatnot. So we haven't identified that we're necessarily going to overachieve this year in revenues, but we do have more revenues.
Okay, if I look at the year-to-date surplus, around 16 million compared to the 24 year-to-date of 6.6 million, could I read into that we're doing a lot better?
Not necessarily. There's always timing in transactions. There are large invoices that can come in late. There are some reconciliations done from a lot of our partners where at year end we have a lot of significant transactions to account for. It is good news. It is a good indication towards what you're saying, but you can't necessarily conclude that that's going to be the case.
So we can't start spending it, is what
That's
you're
exactly
saying?
right.
Okay. So if I look at the departmental, further down in the departmental breakdown, so I see that like it appears like some underspending compared to year-to-date last year. So what you're telling me is it's more structural than like actual, so in terms of when those payouts are coming in. Like in terms of your understanding of where we're at financially, this time of year compared to last year at this time of the year, there are no concerns or extra positives that we need to worry about?
That's correct. So I would say that some of those numbers do look good, but we'll feel more comfortable in December to have a good indication of where we're going. And the finance department is bringing a report to December 8 for decisions on what to do if we do have a surplus.
Okay.
But as of today, the numbers are looking good, but like I said, it's not conclusive yet as far as what year-end is going to look like.
Merci, M. Godin. Question, commentaire, membre du conseil? Non? Merci. Alors, on tombe à l'item C. Sommaire des dépenses allouées par soumission au-delà de 25 000, que le Conseil reçoive le rapport CSASFS 2025-25, daté du 24 novembre 2025 à titre d'information. Quelque chose à rajouter, M. Godin, là-dessus? Non? Question, commentaire, membre du Conseil. OK. Item D, that council receive report CSAS FS 2025-31 dated November 24th, 2025, and approve the proposed bylaw authorizing the execution of the agreement between His Majesty the King in the right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Sports and the Township of Russell related to the CSRIF funding. So this is in relation to our $10 million fund that we received, and I believe this bylaw will allow us to recover the funds, and because we have spent those funds, and that was the condition, that we will not get the money until we spend that money, correct?
Oui, merci, M. Maire, that's correct. So, ça, c'est un entente typique qu'on signe avec la province à chaque fois qu'on a des octrois.
Right.
Et puis, oui, aussitôt qu'on a signé ça, on va pouvoir commencer à réclamer les dépenses qui ont été encourues depuis le 30 mai 2025. Et on en a plus, ou très près du 10 millions déjà d'encourus depuis ce temps-là. Donc, l'argent va commencer à rentrer une fois qu'on fait ces réclamations.
Ce qui est important à remarquer là-dedans, c'est qu'on fait ça aussitôt qu'on peut, because it is a requirement to have spent that money before getting any money. But I'm happy that we're doing it as soon as possible. I talked to Mr. Desgenais about that, because that allows us to use less of our borrowing as we're going through the process and saving us money, right?
That's correct.
Okay, great. Excellent. That's great. Any questions or comments on this one, members of council? No? Thank you. Moving to item E. That council receive report CSAS AM 2025-4 dated November 24th, 2025 for information purposes. Anything to add on that, Monsieur Godin?
Non, merci, M. Maire.
Question, commentaire, membre du conseil. Conseiller Lalonde.
Yeah, this is probably going to be fairly insignificant, but just to remind me what, under the pink color, functional projects, what does the term functional projects mean?
Monsieur Bourgon?
Merci, Monsieur le Maire. I'll take the paving of Burton as an example. The works are completed, we still haven't paid the invoice. A project led by Ottawa, so we're still waiting on the invoice. So basically, it's operational. We can use that project, but it's still not completely financed.
Merci. Autre question? Moi, j'ai une question en clarification, M. Bourgon. Under Schedule 1, I noticed at St. Pierre and St. Augustin culvert projects, it says on hold despite contracts being issued. I just wanted to understand what that meant. So it's on hold despite contract issued. What technical or permitting issues is driving this delay? Like, je sais pas si c'est logique ce que je pose comme question là, mais...
Well, those two projects, the design is completed, but we're not moving forward with construction next year. So the design will still be good if we proceed in a few years.
I understand. Other questions on this item? No? Thank you. Moving to item F. Que le Conseil reçoive le rapport BLDG 2025-03 daté du 24 novembre 2025 à titre d'information et de discussion concernant les modifications proposées aux frais de permis de construire. Quelque chose à rajouter, M. Bourgon? No, Chief, that's right. Sorry, Chief. Anything to add?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, so we did, the building department, we did a review of our building permit fees. We did that undertaking, and I'll pass the microphone through, with your permission, to Ms. Tuff to provide
Yes,
you.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have anything to add other than, as you would see in your report, that we have a public meeting that's being held on Wednesday, November 26th, where the PowerPoint presentation that was attached in the report will be presented to the public. And we will come back on December 8th with the bylaw proposed to council, and we'll consider any of the comments that are made at the public meeting at that time.
Excellent. So I've got two questions. So first of all, like this wasn't, we hadn't reviewed these since 2016, correct?
Correct.
And is there a rationale for the timeline in between these reviews?
The previous review was done in 2005, so there was also a similar time gap. Before the last 2 years, we were not taking any funds from the reserve that we had, and for the last 2 years we have been, so it's been time to update our building permit fees. Also attached in the report, you can see a comparison with the surrounding municipalities where
Yeah.
it shows where we're below what the average is around. And then also taking into consideration the building community and the people purchasing around, we were trying to keep the costs still reasonable. So we've just reviewed that now.
Okay, excellent. And my other question is, if permit volumes remain at the 23-24 levels, will full cost recovery still be achieved by 2029? Because we had a dip there in terms of that, yeah?
Yeah, so the study was basically, it was done based on a 5-year average of all the building permits. So we did the numbers based on the average of those permits, and it does work out at the end of the 5-year term, or 4-year actually.
Okay, thank you so much. Questions, comments? Councillor Armstrong.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the number of permits issued for multi-residential versus singles. Am I correct in assuming that a permit for a multi-residential is in fact several residences in one building covered under one permit? So, for example, last year there was 153 permits for multi-residential. That accounts for well over 153 residences.
Stuff.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. That's correct. So the multi-res fee is based on, so it could be something from a semi-detached, or it could also indicate an apartment unit. So each unit is indicated as a multi-residential unit.
Any additional questions, members of council? Councillor Deakin.
I was looking at the Affordable Housing Action Plan that came back from Tim Walsh Consulting last year regarding actions and recommendations for the township to consider, because I had recalled that building permits were mentioned in the recommendations. Upon looking at this, I don't see any mention of bringing in specified predetermined discounts or waiving of building permit fees. I just want to get confirmation that this would be looked at as part of the affordable housing CIP that I believe is being explored, because in that original report, it was bundled under that CIP notion as an incentivizing factor for deeply affordable housing builds.
That's a fair comment. Councillor Deakin, Monsieur Godin, or Chief?
I can take this one. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Merci de la question, Conseiller Deakin. Specific to the building permits, I'm not certain. I know that the CIP, Mr. Dajan could provide more context if he was here, but we will be undertaking a CIP exercise to see how we can help with affordable housing, and specifically help and how we can exempt or rebate. I know that development charges were mentioned specifically in that. I'm not certain if if it extends to building permit fees as well. But I can definitely, we can circle back with that confirmation.
So we can add that as a follow-up item then. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions on this? Councillor Lalonde.
Yeah, I want to echo Councillor Deakin's comments. I mean, they're already covered here about the idea that both in the work that we did on our Affordable and Attainable Housing Committee pointed in that direction as well in terms of relief for purpose-built projects and deeply affordable housing, that there would be the idea or the notion of waiving site plan location charges, DC charges, permit fees. So that started way back when with the work of our own committee, and now has come forward, as you mentioned, Councillor Deakin, with the possibly being covered in the CIP. So I don't know if in approving or looking at this stuff tonight and wanting to approve it, whether there can be some retroactivity or recognition or whatever you want to call it that would be afforded those kinds of projects, assuming that work is completed in the course of the next few months, that they could benefit of some. Maybe we'd have to come back to council and adjust or amend the bylaw for that purpose. But I just want to echo my support of that as well. It's something we've been following closely, and I'll talk about maybe for a few seconds later on another item. I have a couple questions, though, to go along with this, Mr. Mayor, if I can. One is the time between the review 2016 to today. It is, we're talking about 9 years, 9-year period without any review or adjustment, and I find that to be quite a long period of time. I guess it's easy for me to say that now with the roller coaster ride that we've seen in housing and development over the last 4 years alone. But it's still, I wonder, that being the case and the comparisons that are made with other townships where the fees are quite a bit higher, is a 4-year phase-in plan a little too long to play catch-up here? I mean, might we consider getting closer to what neighboring municipalities are already doing within a 2-year phase-in frame? I say that because I have ulterior motives that to the extent that we might get there sooner rather than later, and the monies that would be, the extra revenues that would be achieved in that shorter time frame could be used to offset, what might be the reductions or the waiving of fees in special projects. One could pay for the other. So I guess the question is, why wouldn't we speed up the phase-in period if we're already fairly behind other municipalities, and will only reach or get close to them 4 years from now rather than 2 years from now?
Thank you, Councillor. Ms. Tupp, anything to add?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. That is a really good suggestion. And I do, just going back to the previous comment, it would be something of interest if council was wanting us to do that we could reduce the time that the permits do, that the fees get increased. But it's a really good point to bring up that we could subsidize other costs of basically affordable housing and things like that. It hasn't been taken into consideration in these building permit fees, but it is a very valid point, and it is something that we can consider. If you would like me to do so, then we can do that. But it is a valid point. I do appreciate that.
Councillor Deakin?
I'd like more information about what other municipalities do in terms of waiving or discounting building permit fees, and where those funds come from when they do that, if it is a common practice to pull from the same revenue stream. And taking Councillor Lalonde's point that this hasn't been done in 10 years, is it the plan to do this in 10 years again, or is it a plan to look at reviewing the fees again in, say, 4 or 5 years?
Ms. Tuff, before answering, just to jump onto that, in terms of questions, are we mandated to do it at a certain period of time, or could, even though we approve, or not that we're approving them here at this point, but when we do eventually approve them, are we limited in when we can change them, is what I'm asking as well. So if you can just add that on to her, to
Okay.
Councillor Deakin's question.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So no, we're not limited in the time, and we can, depending on what council decides, we can extend it or make it shorter. And I'm sorry, could we go back to the first question that you had?
Sorry, that's my fault.
Sorry.
That's okay. We're piling on. Yeah, I just wanted to understand if this is common practice, seeing that come from the housing action plan around building permits, if it's common practice in other municipalities that are rolling out affordable housing action plans, would they take revenues, surplus revenues, let's call them, from the building permit revenue stream and apply that to discounts or waiving for building permits for nonprofit or deeply affordable housing? And I will add another question. And maybe for, if I may, for report back if the answer is not available. I'd like to know if Russell Township has in the past, a recent past, provided discounts or waiving of building permit fees for specific projects that align with community um, social good.
Thank you. Ms. Duff?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So for the first question about what other municipalities do, that's definitely something that I will look into. I don't know the answer to that offhand. For the 5-year period, or sorry, when we're going to be reviewing the building permit fees again, we are planning on doing it in 5 years. So we'll shorten the period of time that we're doing that in. And then as for waiving of fees, previously we have waived fees for municipal projects, the recreation complex, things like that, that we're doing on our own. But anything else that's been waived, it's been brought to council and approved by council if we've done that.
Councillor Armstrong?
Yeah, just thinking about Councillor Lalonde, Councillor Deacon's points. I do agree with subsidizing or otherwise reducing fees for affordable housing. I'm just wondering if we can legally do it via increasing fees for non-affordable or other routine things. I just pulled up the Building Code Act, and I don't see anything where it's allowed in there, but it's not prohibited in there either. So just, should we be doing it by increasing building permit fees to other builders, or should we be taking that out of general taxation to make up that difference? That's the question in my mind.
Thank you, Councillor. So that's another, I guess, point to take back as we go through this. We are just receiving this right now. It's coming back December 8th for an actual approval, and we have an open house for this that's being presented, right? I think, what's the date for that again?
Wednesday, November 26th.
Okay, perfect. So I guess those are some of the questions that we'll seek to get some answers on in terms of that. Anything to add, Ms. Tubb?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to add to Councillor's point, it is allowed to do, and we actually do that now. It is practice in our building permit fee calculations. That's how it's done. So there's already subsidizing of different building permits. Just for example, the cost of the administration of issuing a deck permit, for example, is significantly more than what we're proposing because of the cost recovery of it. However, it's not reasonable to charge a homeowner $1,000 for a deck permit, for example. So what happens in that case then, larger building permits, let's say a commercial, a new build or industrial build, those fees are increased to subsidize the smaller projects and in a more reasonable fashion. So it's not something that's unheard of, and it's actually something that we already do. So it would be definitely reasonable to do that.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any additional questions before we move on? No? OK, on s'en va à l'item G, que le Conseil reçoive le rapport CSAS-CL 2025-10, daté du 24 novembre 2025, et adopte le règlement Omnibus proposé afin d'abroger les règlements désuets. Madame Camille-Laflamme.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, Council. Yes, so this comes back to Council about every year or second year, but because next year is an election year, so we did one in 2024. Was a very short one, so this year we went through more of the bylaws that could be repealed, that are not active or expired. So that's the list that we came up with after verifying with each department to confirm.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Questions, comments, members of council? Councillor Armstrong.
Yeah, it goes back nearly 60 years. Do we have a lot of bylaws still that may come up in such future reviews going back 60 years? It's just that, wow, that's a lot of bylaws.
Madame Camille-Laflamme.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, so we do have a lot. So that's why when we do search and we have to go through everything, at least if we have a note that it's expired or it doesn't apply anymore, it's easier.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? Seeing none, let's move on. Moving to item H. The council receives recommendation AAC 2025-03 dated November 12th, 2025 from the Accessibility Advisory Committee with respect to the installation of wheelchair-accessible portable washrooms in the township. Before passing this on, I think Madame Guittard will take this one, but I just wanted In looking at this, I just wanted to maybe give it to Conseiller Lalonde, see if, to add any context. Before we do that, if I understand correctly, the recommendation is that anywhere we have a portable washroom, they need to be wheelchair accessible. But I do believe that we have certain areas where we have portable washrooms, but to get to them, it's not accessible. So it wouldn't make sense to have a accessible washroom. And so, Madame Guittard, maybe you can clarify. I think the province's 2024 initial recommendations for improving the built environment through AODA, they talk about portable toilets, stating that where portable toilets are required, at least one accessible unit is required, and it must be on an accessible path of travel. Madame Guittard?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Yes, so definitely if we do install some portable toilets, we have to make sure that it is accessible to get to the toilet. So that's why we have one at JP Park, obviously, because it's our
Fully
accessible park.
Yeah.
And we also have one at the pool area because we do have a lift. We provide a lift for people who would like to use the lift. So since we've had that lift, we've always had a portable toilet there.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong? Councillor Lalonde, sorry, I just saw the hand go up on the side of my...
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we had a discussion, obviously, at our committee on this issue, and I take the point on the maybe the initial idea that since if there isn't a walkway to it, then it's not really accessible. For us, that's not really the issue. The issue came up for us that with parents with small children, in the case where there is not an accessibility issue, there's still a challenge to take an infant or a young child into a porta potty at a park without the parent being present to give them a hand. So it's very difficult to get two people into one of those normal spaces when you think you have a parent trying to give assistance. So it was starting to point more to that challenge, that it actually is an issue for parents with small children. It's also an issue for parents with youth who have developmental disabilities. So it's not just about, again, it's not the path that they need to get them to that unit, neither the mother with the small child nor the mother with a young developmentally disabled child. They can both walk on the grass and get to that spot. It's about getting in there with them to give assistance in both cases and having enough room in which to do that. And that's why we sort of, as we debated and discussed it, we thought that it was became a very practical and a reasonable suggestion to make. And I realized too that the difference in cost, I think, is only about $50 between one and the other. So if you had 10 units, you'd be looking at an extra 10 times $50 in the summer if you had 12. So I had checked that through with the help of Monsieur Dagenet. So I think the additional cost of the thing is insignificant, is not significant. And I think the benefit to mothers with small children or parents with younger children and parents with developmentally disabled that need to be in the unit with the child or the young adult makes the whole thing, in our view, a very practical and a reasonable recommendation to bring to council. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. The only caution I would, or what I would like to know more about is if we provide accessible toilets in a non-accessible pathway, that this may come back saying that, you know, we're not fulfilling the mandate, even though it's not required because we have a fully accessible park. And so that would be my only concern, and I would seek some guidance from council, or, from staff on that, in terms of the logic. But before I do, Councillor Armstrong?
Yeah, just one, it says, all future portable washrooms installed in the township. I'm assuming that means portable washrooms intended for public use, as opposed to one, say, installed by a roofing contractor where on the job site.
Yeah, I think that's fair to specify that on that. But it's just, that's to bring it to council, but I think that was the intent, Councillor Lalonde, right? So maybe some additional insight, Madame Guittard?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. We could definitely look into this, like you said, to make sure that we don't offend people that really do need the accessible pathway or road or path to the portable toilet. Because if it's in the grass, obviously, it might not be accessible to these residents. So we just want to have, like you mentioned, we just had to make sure. But I do understand Councillor Lalonde's comment about, with
The size and
yes,
space, yeah.
absolutely, yeah. They're bigger, yeah.
Okay, so are we comfortable with just having staff? Oh. Councillor Deacon, sorry, I didn't see your hand up.
I'm very supportive of this, and I understand the hesitation around, does this send a message that we assume that an accessible portable washroom will be accessible to everyone, no matter where it is? I understand that concern, I really do, but I also agree with Councillor Lalonde and the committee's point too. This is about enhancing accessibility across our diversity of different abilities that are in our community. And I did a quick Google search because there's a term for it. It's called the curb cut effect. And often when we think about accessibility, we think about wheelchair users. There is a bias towards that. You see, my mom needed an accessible parking spot for many years, and there was a blue wheelchair, symbolizing she was never in a wheelchair, but she had it's kind of baked into our collective psyche, I think, in some ways. But the curb cut effect was the understanding that once you put a curb cut in with the idea that it is for wheelchair users, it increases the accessibility for people that you never even had thought of. It runs the amount of use cases that come forward that a designer couldn't have even fathomed because they didn't have the range of empathy and understanding of lived experience of every possible accessibility need to understand. So I just wanted to share that term, the curb cut effect, and I believe that this step will improve accessibility in our communities, and I'm fully supportive for that.
Thank you. So at this stage, we're just receiving that. Is it fair to say that we can get something in the future to kind of look at the cost and how we can action that and recommendations from staff? Monsieur Godin, Madame Guittard?
Merci, Monsieur Mayor. Yeah, we can definitely look into the costs and look into the implications, like you mentioned, about having accessible portable toilets where there's no accessible path. So I guess I see there's two options. We can either just accept this as is, as far as receiving the recommendation, and have staff bring a report back, or we could defer this this resolution and we can have some information in the next council meeting to be able to vote on it. I don't know what's more practical. I don't know if Madame Camille, if you have a...
Conseiller Lalonde?
Well, if you want to just, we're pulling them out these days with winter on the horizon anyway, so there's no urgent issue that goes along with this. If you want to just report back at the next meeting, having given it some thought, I think that would be fine. I just want to add one last, I appreciate everything we do on council. The last 3 years for me has never been about black and white issues. Everything's been gray. It's always a gray area. And here's another case where there's a risk reward. What is the risk? Well, some people may come up to and say, how come I can't get all the way? The reward is, and I've seen this at some of the parks, is parents bringing porta potties and going back to the car with the kid to do it there in the seat because they can't get into the smaller unit. So I think the risk reward, and the gray area, it's still, for me, I think it's an enhancement. And I hope we have the courage to see that through. Thanks.
Merci, Conseiller Lalonde. Well said about the gray area. It seems like there's a lot of these that are never quite yes or no. All right, thank you very much. Any other points to make on this item? Parfait. Alors, ça nous amène à l'item 12. Rapport d'un investigateur de l'Ombudsman, on n'en a pas. Numéro 13, avis de motion, on n'en a pas. Item 14, question period on meeting of the day. Any questions? Okay, thank you. So I don't have to read the disclaimer, right? All right. Okay. Alors, on tombe à numéro 15, résolution. 15A, notice of motion, Councillor Marc Lalonde, rent control measures. C'est bon. And this was moved by Conseiller Lalonde, seconded by Councillor Deacon. Whereas Council understands that the need for affordable rental housing not only applies to new residential construction, but also to the protection of existing affordable rental units. And whereas the removal of rental control in 2018 on the new residential rental units opened the door to unjustified year-over-year rent increases, resulting in added hardship to working class and low-income residents struggling to cope with unpredictable rental costs and loss of housing security. And whereas the loss of rent control has caused a high number of people across Ontario to be forced out of their rental units due to their inability to afford unjustified rent increases, and whereas unlimited rent increases and a move towards monthly rather than yearly rental agreements can be used as a tactic by landlord acting in bad faith to remove existing tenants and replace them with new tenants at increased rental rates. And whereas providing housing stability, maintaining affordable housing stock, and protecting renters from unjustified rent increases is of the utmost importance to the Council. And whereas Council recognizes that fair and responsible landlords are essential to the Township of Russell's commitment to promote affordable housing for working class, low-income residents, now therefore be it resolved that Council of the Township of Russell requests the Province of Ontario to reintroduce rent control measures that protect against excessive and unfair rent increases for rental units occupied for residential purposes while maintaining the ability of responsible landlords to operate in a viable and sustainable business, and that the Clerk of the Township of Russell forward this resolution to the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, Liberal MP Giovanna Mingarelli, Conservative MPP Stéphane Sarrazin, and other municipalities within the United Counties of Prescott-Russell for their consideration and endorsement. And this, as I said, was moved by Councillor Lalonde, seconded by Councillor Deacon. So, call for the vote. C'est ça, Madame Camille Laflamme? Yeah, call for the vote on that. Or questions and comments? Any questions and comments? Yeah. So, comments? Conseiller Lalonde? Sorry, I should have started with that. Apologies.
That's fine. Thanks very much for reading that again, Mr. Mayor. It's a bit of a mouthful. I just wanted to take a minute or two, if I could, to provide some context to this. This is a similar initiative that some other municipalities have undertaken to put this motion together themselves and have it sent in. So I can't take credit for being the author of all the language that was used there. I kind of begged, borrowed, and stole a little bit of it in the process of writing it out for our sake in this township. But for us, for me, I know for Councillor Deacon, the rest of council and staff as well, I think it's particularly meaningful because of the fact that we put together an affordable and attainable housing committee to study the situation in our township and to look into things like affordable housing and affordable rents. In fact, as I was getting some of the stuff ready today, I mean, I went back to our own report. I'm sure everyone's read it several times. But we had a case, and I'll just give one illustration. I don't want to ramble on here, but We had a case while we were doing our analysis, just one case. There are many, many more I could cite, but the one in particular was in a newer rental apartment. It was a couple in their late 60s. And in our report, we talk about the experience, the terrible experience they had in having, in less than 3 years, having their annual rent increased up to $4,800 in the third year. They hadn't even completed it. And then only to find out that at the end of that, their lease, which they had been operating on a yearly basis, was canceled or allowed to expire to be replaced with a month-to-month rental agreement, which for people my age, 68, 69, moving into places like that, means you have no idea what will happen from month to month, and you're looking for safety and security. So we have other examples of that, but this is some of the inspiration for why we come back with the rent control. I probably should have done this a year ago. It's interesting that I had conversations that I want to share in the last few days with the United Counties Prescott-Russell, their housing manager, someone who's been an asset to us in our work, Alain Lasselle. Certainly I got the impression that the UCPR fully supports the idea of the return to rent controls and the need more than ever before for them to be brought back in this very dynamic environment where we see rents going up by 10 and 12% annually. I know in Russell, for instance, right now, we have basement, not apartments, but basement bedrooms being rented out for $1,000 to $1,100 a month. So you can imagine what the apartment's going to cost you if for just one bedroom you're going to pay $1,000 a month. That's now fairly common in our township. So I leave that to support the motion. I would have more to say on this, but I think I'm going to leave that to want to discuss in a follow-up with the CAO and staff afterwards about the connection to this affordable rents and other measures that maybe well, not other measures that may be. There's a direct connection to this tonight and to what I've also just discovered in the RGI program, the Rent Geared Income Program. I've just found out that we have close to 100 units or credits, if you want to call them, that are available to be used that are unused right now of the 860. That wasn't the case a few years ago. In the report that I brought a few years back, we were closer to maxing out on that with a waiting list. That's not the case anymore. There's over 100 units available. And that to me is a little tragic because it suggests that the not-for-profits and our new apartment building developers are not interested or for whatever reasons don't see the benefit or the need to be applying for those through the counties. And in speaking with the counties, they tell me that indeed there's been a decline in interest on the part of not-for-profits to go after them. And we understand that part of that is because they're using those, they're letting go of those apartments that were RGI designated to return them to market price units in order to be able to balance the business model of the not-for-profit, that they're needing to bring in more money to pay the cost of things and having to remove the RGI because of that, which brings them less revenue. So I'll leave it at that, but that discovery for me in the last 48 hours was a little bit shocking, that there are so many units available. And again, something I'd like hopefully to discuss with staff, if I can, about maybe what we can do through our new position with a community development officer to raise interests and help promote that. Anyway, I appreciate the time. Thanks.
Merci, Conseiller Lalonde. Councillor Deacon, did you have your hand up? No? Anything else to add? So I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And passed. Thank you. Thank you. All right, moving to item B, motion que le Conseil approuve toutes les recommandations énumérées à l'ordre du jour au numéro 11, rapport des départements et comités du Conseil. And that is moved by Councillor Deacon, seconded by Councillor Lalonde. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And passed. Thank you very much. Moving to item 16, bylaws. Motion that council approve bylaws 2025-140 to 2025-142 inclusively for first, second, and third reading as listed on the agenda. So be moved by Councillor Lalonde, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Call for the vote. All in favor? And passed. Thank you very much. Item 17, new reports, new business reports, we have none. Item 18, other business, business presented by council members. So I'd like to start with, I'll start with the Capital Region Resource Recovery Center, possible acquisition by Ottawa. So that's been in the socials, and it was last Friday, and so I just wanted to maybe open it up for council to have a little bit of a discussion on this item. This is a landfill site that has already been approved. It is now being considered for purchase by Ottawa and/or by other private companies that we would not know about at this point. And so I went through the Finance Committee, and I know that Councillor Salsky did a great presentation and proposed a motion there, ensuring that we are partners. Pardon me? 4 motions, yeah. But one of them in particular to ensure that the municipality was, Russell Township, should I say, was considered as part of the stakeholders and discussions, and to make sure that we're aware of what's going on. And so I'm happy to hear that. I wrote a letter to Mayor Sutcliffe and to Councillor Salsky about our concern in wanting to be in the loop as to what's happening as it's happening, and so that we can inform our residents as much as possible. There's a lot of history with this file, as I'm sure all council members are aware. And so perhaps we can just have a quick discussion on it, just to make sure that we are more or less all kind of, maybe not on the same page here, but it's just more that we're aware of all the information that's out there right now. I think that's the important part. So maybe I'll start with Councillor Deacon.
Thank you. I observed that City of Ottawa Finance and Corporate Services Committee late last week, where the committee did agree, vote in favor to proceed with bringing the matter to the full council. I would like to make 2 acknowledgements out of that, what I observed that day. So first, I'd like to acknowledge current and former residents of our township for their deep knowledge on this issue, and the care and concern which was on full display that was offered to City of Ottawa residents and decision makers this past week. And secondly, to your point, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to acknowledge City of Ottawa councillors Kitts and Brown who sit on that committee, and Councillor Skalsky, who brought forward critical motions that were championed by those 2 committee members and which subsequently passed at the committee level. If the City of Ottawa does proceed to purchase this project on a whole, as well as those 3 motions, could impact Russell Township and Township residents. And so with that possibility, I do urge Mr. Mayor as well as administration to continue to connect with the City of Ottawa on the issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Armstrong?
Just as a member of the Community Liaison Committee, which has been in effect for 6-8 years now, we haven't had a meeting in almost a year. And the last one was chaired by Miller Waste. So the big thing that came out of that meeting was that there's a lot of things happening in the waste disposal industry in Ontario, driven by the new regulations on recycling. The key component that got that site approved in 2017 was the material recovery facility. I have been told that Ottawa is not terribly interested in the material recovery facility. They're looking for landfill capacity. And the material recovery facility would normally have only, would have provided residual waste for the landfill site, as opposed to the landfill site being the major operating factor or operating sector of that site. I've also heard several suggestions that the city might want to put an incinerator on the site, and that means we are certainly downwind of that in this township. My concern is that we have to monitor the fact that there are 14 conditions on that site approval. And of those 14, the material recovery facility in operation before any other activity takes place is one of the conditions. It's condition 10. The fact that the township have membership on the Community Liaison Committee is another one of those conditions, condition 14. So those are two things that we as a council and as a township in general have to keep up on, so that we are aware of what is going on that site. There are many other conditions concerning the unstable soils, reporting if there are events that may affect the unstable soils that underline that site. And Harry Baker, geotechnical engineer, who specialized in construction on unstable soils, can give us a pretty good review of that if we want it, but I think what he's already published is quite comprehensive. So I do have concerns about things changing on that site that may be to the detriment of the township and that we will not know about unless we ensure that the conditions that are in the ECA are in fact followed.
Just a clarification, Councillor Armstrong. When I looked at the EA, what's the difference between the EA and the ECA?
EA develops, put it in a building sort of context. EA gives you the design. The ECA is the building permit. And there can be conditions placed on by the minister on your actual permit to construct and operate. I think Mr. Bolgon can give us some other ideas. We have ECAs for our water and wastewater facilities as well.
Because if I look at what was available online when I was doing my research on that, the EA had 50+ requirements as part of this. And I also did find that in 2024, municipal solid waste or household waste was approved as a minor amendment to their EA. And so they're already that site is already allowed to have household waste, correct?
That's correct. But it doesn't remove the conditions that the material recovery facility be in operation prior to the use of the landfill site.
Okay. Well, certainly there is a lot there, and I think it is important that we stay on top of it. I certainly, from my end, will continue reaching out, and in my letter that I sent out to Councillor and Mayor Sutcliffe, I did also ask for them to see if they can identify someone from their staff so that we can have a more direct liaison with our staff as well. And so we'll, if that's okay with council and staff, that we kind of stay on top of this and just, as anything comes up, that we are, we bring it to this table to make sure that we're as aware of what's going on as possible, and so that we can communicate that with our residents. Is that fair? Yeah. Mr. Godin, that makes sense, yeah. Okay, thank you. So that was my first item. Item 18B, so at the United Counties, and this is still moving a little bit, but at the United Counties, council asked them to, in consideration of the challenges that all our municipalities are facing with related to growth and the affordability of growth and that whole growth pays for growth theme that we've all heard. It's important to realize that every new tax dollar that comes to our municipality, there is another dollar, and maybe not quite exactly a dollar, that goes to the counties. And so that new growth impacts the counties as well. And with that understanding, council kind of asked from staff at the United Counties that those dollars of new development, we end up having to spend a lot more at the onset than what counties has to spend. And so that we would like to consider that growth dollars, certainly as they come in the first few years, be redirected to the municipalities that are providing that growth. So it was a direction from county council for right now to redirect the $1.2 million of growth that came as a result this past year back to the municipalities that experienced that growth. So in some cases, it's a small amount of $10,000 for one specific municipality, but in our case, it represents about over $500,000 that may end up coming back this year. And so that money is not confirmed yet, although we've agreed that that's what we wanted. The final budget at counties is not yet approved. We have a meeting this week and possibly a meeting up to, I believe, December 10th to a fourth version if we have to go there. But as it stands, if that direction stands, there will be this $500+ dollars, that $100,000 that's going to come back to the township. And so I just wanted to share that with council for your thoughts and considerations on what we will want to do in terms of that. That's a one-time fee, and with the plan that in January, February, the United Counties will come back with some sort of plan where growth-related dollars come back to the municipalities that generated that growth on a declining balance. So, for example, in 2026, we would receive this $548,000, which represents the 2025 growth in the counties. In 2027, we would receive a portion of that 25 growth, and we would receive the full amount of the 26 growth, and so on, probably roughly around 4 years, kind of going in a declining balance. And so after about 3 or 4 years, the counties would receive the full value of that growth. Again, recognizing the fact that counties are supporting a lot of costs that are related to an established households, if you want, and that the municipalities are kind of putting a lot more burden at the onset. And so again, this is just again to share that information with council. I think it's good news for us, and I think that we'll be asking staff to look at what are the best options relating to this, these dollar values. For this year, it would be this $548,000, and then once a plan comes in play, we can have a more stable idea or understanding of how much will come back to the municipality. Having said that, again, just a thought, and maybe staff to come back or to start planning on what we can do with those funds this year, understanding that really they are related to growth and they should go back to growth-related aspects. And so whether that means putting them into reserves that are for our AMP, which makes sense, or if there are growth-related specific projects that we're struggling at funding, that would be the kind of ideas that I think council would appreciate getting back. So as soon as the budget's approved, we'll know for sure that we're getting that money back and we can move forward. So again, just for thought for council. Councillor Deakin?
We're nearing the end of 2025. I had to look at my computer screen to verify that. When you say this year, do you mean 2025 calendar year, or do you mean the upcoming budget, the 2026 budget, that we would be essentially possibly remitted
Yeah, so
That
the
fund.
2025 growth that the counties received is all coming back to the municipalities that generated it. So the county levy related to growth, strictly to growth, which is $1.2 million, we're receiving this $548,000, and that was generated in 2025, and we'll receive in 2026.
Thank you for the clarification.
All right. But again, until everything's signed, sealed, and delivered, but it's just more to start thinking about opportunities that can bring. And hopefully we have a regular plan and that amount should increase substantially over the next few years if it is on one of those reducing amounts. So that was that. The next item that I wanted to bring in is Bill 68. So Bill 68, amongst other things, the province is proposing to merge Ontario's 36 conservation authorities into 7 regional conservation authorities as part of a plan to streamline operations and strengthen provincial oversight. This is outlined in Environmental Registry Posting 25-1257 and Bill 68. So the South Nation Conservation Authority, on which I sit as a board member and which serves Russell and surrounding United Counties, would become part of what they call the new St. Lawrence Regional Conservation Area Authority, one of 7 proposed regional bodies. So impact in terms of our township. So if this happens, the timeline, first of all, would be at the next election cycle, so it would come into play in fall of 2026. And so with that, we would have much less local representation, likely less responsive because a much larger organization. One of the key elements that the South Nation is struggling with is the land trust issues. There's a lot of land that was deeded over to South Nation conservation for stewardship and maintaining it. And so in people's wills, this was directly to South Nation. So what would happen with that? And really, we're talking about more top-down provincial control, which may or may not have an impact on the environment, but it's something that's important. So just to advise council that a resolution, first of all, was already passed at SDNG counties, and I'm proposing one at the United Counties on Wednesday. We're going to be putting it through. So I'm moving it, and Mayor Lajoie, who sits with me at South Nation Conservation, is seconding that. And we've already had the support of Monsieur Louis Prévost and Stéphane Sarrazin, staff at the counties. They work very well with South Nation. And so I would just I'm just sharing this with information for information purposes. I may or may not come at the next meeting with a proposed motion to also send a message out from council as well. So depending on the plan. So any questions on that? All right. Oh, sorry, Councillor Armstrong.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Okay.
Having previously been the chair of the outreach committee, we would lose significant responsibility or ability to respond to local issues in, east of the Rideau Lakes area. And there's significantly different issues in conservation authorities between here and heading westward into the Rideau Lakes and on the other side, because it goes significantly into Belleville, if I remember correctly.
That's correct.
So that is very concerning. And other programs that South Nation provides us, I mean, our septic system approval systems and whatever, those are all key local issues that we have to look at that they don't really have in the city of Ottawa or the city of Kingston, because they are much larger metropolitan areas. At least it's not in their minds as it is in the minds of people here.
Councillor Deegan, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Deegan.
Just building on those comments to underscore that the Conservation Authority in our region does so much more than the bare minimum of watershed oversight as they're mandated to do. And so that would be my main concern as well, is we are still a small municipality. We're growing. We have a lot of wonderful in-house expertise, but nothing, there's so much more that we accomplish with the work of South Nation and their team of experts, again, that goes well beyond the narrow, increasingly narrow mandate of conservation authorities. And so I want people to understand that this is not a cookie cutter. Conservation authorities do not operate in a cookie cutter fashion. The local benefit that South Nation brings to our township in particular is uniquely tailored to our community's wants and needs in terms of much more than simply the increasingly narrow scope of the watershed. So I would agree, and I would like to see, Mr. Mayor, if you're open to bringing that motion here as well, I would like to have that motion go through our council specifically as well. Thank you.
Excellent. We'll do so for next one. And just to add on to that, so Monsieur Prévost, who is responsible for this at the county level, did mention that apparently there are some challenging conservation authorities in and around Toronto area, and this is, you know, he certainly expressed his opinion that this is really to try to address an issue there, whereas we have a model conservation authority running here that really supports our community well, and so it's definitely worth protecting. So I will bring that that motion to the next meeting. Then I'll get the wording. I'll make sure that we bring it over. Any other points on this? And that brings me to 18D. Councillor Armstrong.
Yes, I've had many residents reach out to me in the last little while after the postal strike, and it concerned utility billing. And by the way, I have no argument that somebody should be forgiven paying a utility bill during a postal strike. My question is, when the postal strike prevents those people that depend on Canada Post for their communications means, they may be penalized compared to other people who are active on social media and other means and get the word that come and fetch your bill and pay it. I would simply ask, instead of having an ad hoc or whatever deferral of the interest in penalties, that we ensconce that into a bylaw, part of our user fees bylaw, to allow the mayor and the CAO or whatever to make the decision, due to the postal strike, we will forgive those fees during the period of the postal strike. That's all I asked.
Thank you, Councillor. So just a couple of other points to make. So that this issue definitely came up, and it's interesting because it came up out of a desire to support residents, and so I want to applaud the department, because what happened, you know, if you look at your typical hydro bills or bell bills, they just go and they'll sit in the mail until the mail eventually gets delivered, and they'll charge you late fees based on the fact that you should know how much you should pay, or it's up to you to figure it out. And so, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Godin, but the decision was made here, let's hold the bills here and offer people a chance to come and get them physically so they can have their bills. And so when the post office started up again, all the bills that weren't picked up, because there were quite a few that were picked up, were all mailed out, and it's a process, and it's part of a bylaw, so staff were following the bylaw. Oh, this one's not paid, there's that late fee, and so on. And again, you know, in appreciation of staff, you know, in that discussion during actually our emergency preparedness day, when these issues started coming up, they were very responsive, and we were able to get communication out to staff to residents to ensure, because I got inundated with emails and phone calls, and I was really happy to be able to, and I was still getting some, And every time I got him, I go, yeah, it's resolved. What's the problem? There's no issue. So that made my job real easy. So I really appreciate that, Mr. Gane, for everyone on the team. But in terms of adjusting that bylaw, Mr. Gane, your thoughts? I mean, that could be looked at. I know it's going to come back, but.
Yeah, merci, Mr. Mayor. So I think it's a very good suggestion. We are preparing, the finance team is preparing a report to bring to council at the December 8th meeting, kind of to summarize what that situation was, and to present to council how we plan on approaching it in future cases, if that ever happens again. The question of amending the user fee bylaw to add some sort of discretion in there to be able to react to these situations without needing to come back to council was discussed. And we'll be part of that. We can make that part of that discussion to see how council wishes to proceed. I for sure would welcome that type of approach. I think it gives it's a good discussion to have. So we'll include that in the report to make sure that we have.
It shows the township residents that we're actually looking after them. In other words, and I doubt we actually will lose a great deal of money at all. But for that few people that actually rely on Canada Post, they're really
Yeah,
stuck.
this was a exceptional event as well, right? So, but again, I think staff was nimble, was able to adjust. They follow the bylaw to the letter in terms of how the billing happens, and that's a good thing too. And overall, I think it was resolved quickly and efficiently, and I appreciate the staff's input on that to be able to do that. So I think the communique came out on Friday afternoon, and we started getting the feedback on Thursday morning, so it was relatively quick. So anything else to add on that, Mr. Gaudin?
Not for now, no. So we'll have
Okay.
more information next meeting, but
Merci.
I appreciate the suggestion.
Excellent, thank you. Anything else to add? Okay, moving to item 19, public consultations and hearings, we have none. Item 20, announcements. I've got a few. So first of all, I'd like to thank, all organizations that helped us support Remembrance Day on November 11th. And so we had ceremonies in Russell, Embrun, and Limoges. Thank you for the staff that supported, Monsieur Savoie, the Legion, Club Richelieu, council members that went to ensure that we had coverage at all of the ceremonies. It's always such a great event and see the community come together. So thank you very much for that. On Thursday, November 13th, as I was alluding to earlier on, Councillor Deakin and myself participated with not only our staff, but with staff of nations. So it was a joint annual emergency exercise where we look at, possible situations and how we react to that. And so I really appreciated the fact that we were able to do it with another municipality together. This was my first time to do it that way, so thank you very much for that. And I think it was very interesting exercise, and you never know when these kind of things can happen. On Saturday, November 15th, I had the opportunity of attending Spelling Bee for the RAPA's Spelling Bee, and I absolutely had a blast. I've gone to many plays at RAPA, and this one was particularly great because I got to participate in it, and so I really enjoyed that. And I know Councillor Deakin had a similar experience, and we were laughing about that earlier on today. And so it's so nice to have RAPA in our community, and the arts and culture piece that allows us to have that in our community, I think is so important. So I'm really happy about that. I'm going to keep going. Sunday, November 16th, I was at the Ace Cafe to see the Kin Club team do their thing and provide, and the Ace got caught, and a prize of a total of $2.4 million was awarded to the person on the other line. And I could tell you, when I went to Ace Cafe, I said, just for the record, I do have about 15 or 20 tickets in here. And all the members that were not part of that were part of Kim but not part of the lottery, they said, well, don't worry, we all do. And rightfully so. But more importantly to all of this is that They actually raised on Catch the Ace 7, they raised $3.3 million for local charities. And so I think that's fantastic. There'll be a gala coming up. And so I'm looking forward to being at the gala, to mark that momentous occasion. And, I had a chance to go to the Ace Cafe twice, once at the start of Catch the Ace, and then, as it turns out, on the last Catch the Ace for Catch the Ace 7. And the people that were there, they were there for 51 weeks in a row, and I know there was 52 cards, and it was the 51st card, so they were there for 52 weeks, giving their time and the amount of time they take during the week to make sure the tickets get out and everything else. And they are doing that strictly for the benefit of our community. And so that boggles my mind. Now, we did recognize them, rightfully so, because the amount of time they give, and I think the first thing they were saying is they can finally take some holidays, because it's not a weekly thing where they have to be everywhere. So, moving on, this past Saturday, I attended the county's Warden's Banquet, and so at the Warden's Banquet, we finally had a chance to recognize Connie Johnson, who won the 2024 JP St. Pierre Award. JP, as you know, it was a former mayor here, and so in true Connie fashion, she could not make the ceremony last year because she was running a trivia night, and that took precedence. So she was helping the community raise money, and so she was able to be there, and along with JP's widow that was there as well, and we were able to celebrate her. So I was extremely happy about that. This week, and we started today, the staff team and myself. This morning we were at the PMO's office, and the rest of the week we have a few other meetings up on the Hill with the goal of lobbying and ensuring that we are pushing to be remembered when they're giving out grants, especially around infrastructure, supporting our water, wastewater infrastructure. And so we had a great meeting this morning. We have more meetings on Thursday as well. So thank you, Mr. Godin, and everybody on the team that was there today and that will be doing those meetings. They were fruitful last year, certainly at the provincial level, and we're excited to see them being fruitful this year with at the federal level as well. Moving along, Saturday, November 29th, and I know I'm forgetting a few things here, but Saturday, November 29th at 11, there is a plaque dedication ceremony at the Russell Ball Diamond. And so Councillor Laurent has been advocating to move this forward, and so we are finally doing that to recognize some community leaders there with these plaques, and so that'll be this coming Saturday. Saturday, November 29th, and Sunday, November 30th are parades or Christmas parades. So a big shout out to the fire services for championing that for us, as you do so well every year. So thank you. Please pass that on to everyone. Looking forward to participate. This other one I really have to mention as well is last week, our fire chief was recognized by the Association of Fire Chief, was bestowed the 2025 Alf Stone Award. And so Chief McBain, congratulations on that. And I did a little research on that award. They talked about how it was so prestigious, and it is one of the most prestigious awards given by the association. And it recognizes all the work that you do here, the work that you did in bringing our two stations together, and all the great work you do with the association and so on. So on behalf of the community and council, congratulations for that. We're very proud and very honored to have you sitting with us and being part of the team here. So thank you so much. Did you want to say a speech on that, or no? Okay. I know I'm forgetting some stuff. Oh, Thursday we have the Maison Interlude fundraiser. It's in Alexandria this year. Council has a table there, and we'll be joined by, I know, our MP and MPP and quite a few members of United Counties of Prescott-Russell as well. Excited to participate for the second year in a row to this fundraising event. It's an important one, and And as Councillor Deacon alluded, it's a sad one, unfortunately, because we get to hear some sad stories there as well. So it is difficult to do, but it's obviously important, and all the monies being raised are supporting the development of the Maison Interlude. That's happening, and I do believe there will be an announcement coming Friday at the site of the Maison Interlude. More details to come shortly on that. So I think I know I'm forgetting a few things, but I know Councillor Deacon probably is going to remind me of something.
It's like a bingo card. Le défi des lutins par Valoris aura lieu samedi de 3h à 6h à salle Camille Pichet, à la salle Camille Pichet. There will be games, visit with Santa, gift collection for their program to make sure that every family has a Merry Christmas, whether it's in their budget to have gifts or not. And on that theme, I just wanted to take the opportunity to acknowledge businesses, the food bank, other organizations in our community that are taking the initiative to sponsor gift trees, sponsor families with meals, provide hampers over the holidays. Another support local initiative, of course, is to shop local. We're able to give locally because we support each other and we support local small businesses. And there are some wonderful markets now. There's a new returned market tradition really in these past 5 or 6 years. And I want to highlight folks that are organizing markets. The Russell Flea will be on November 29th at Russell High School. The Russell Christmas Market, organized by the Russell Agricultural Society, will be December 6th. And there was a round of markets in Embrun this past weekend, but it'll return again on December 13th. So do buy your gifts, your goodies local as much as possible. And I wanted to highlight as well that on November 22nd, so 2 days ago, was National Housing Day. And I'd like to recognize the work of United Counties of Prescott-Russell, that is our affordable housing service manager. They were here last meeting providing us with a presentation snapshot on work that's going to be done at the county's level. I'd also like to acknowledge the work of staff, in particular with beginning to mobilize our housing action plan. And there was a quote from this report that I'll take the opportunity to read. It was the report to council from the Affordable and Attainable Housing Committee from 2024, which I thought was appropriate to read. Between 2006 and 2016, Canada added 1.6 million households and built 1.9 million new homes. That means that almost 30,000 extra homes were constructed each year compared to the increase in the number of households. And yet household prices and rents went up at breakneck speed during those same years. That's a quote from Stephen Pomeroy, who's a well-known affordable housing expert across Canada. And we've been growing a lot as a community. There are more households in our community than ever before, but there are not yet more affordable housing units in our community. And just to hit home on the point that it's not a one-for-one, and the financialization of housing across our country continues to be a persistent issue that is making housing affordability less possible for young families than ever before.
Thank you, Councillor Deacon. Moving to final notice, or announcement, I should say, not final notice. So just to take notice that the Township of Russell will hold a public meeting on November 26, 2025 at 6 p.m. in Gaston Patnaud Hall here at 1717 Notre Dame Street in Embrun in order to consider the proposed building permit fee bylaw under Section 7 of the Building Code Act. No other announcements? Once, twice? Perfect. So we move to item 21, strategic discussion. We have none. Item 22, closed session. We have none tonight. 23, confirming bylaw. That bylaw 2025.
143.
2025-143, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Russell at its regular council meeting held on November 24th, 2025, be read a first, a second, and third time and passed. And this so be moved by Councillor Deacon, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Call for the vote. All in favor? And passed. Thank you very much. Our next regular public meeting of council will be held on Monday, December 8th, 2025. We are adjourned at 7:35. We're going to pay for this at some point.